Phallocentrism is the belief that the phallus is considered superior. It is connected to the dominant order of things which is considered by society to be male. Laura Mulvey is a British film theorist who was born in 1941 and studied at Oxford. She wrote Visual Pleasure in the Narrative Cinema in 1975. It explains how the cinematic experience has been constructed for the male viewer. The language and ideology by the mass media is considered phallocentric. She also studied psychoanalytic theory, which is the idea that humans are described as having sexual and aggressive drives based on instinct. Laura uses all of this to explain the psychic process, which is the experience we have while watching movies. French theorist Jacques Derrida coined the term phallocentrism, which is a combination of the terms logocentrism and phallocentrism. The phallocentric argument is based on the claim that Western culture has been subjugated by both terms separately. Movies have been constructed to satiate male desire. Male characters are considered active and move the plot along, whereas female characters are considered passive and generally create a halt in the story and rarely step out of their place. When a female character does dare to overreact and question the male, she is quickly disarmed and put back in her place. She usually apologizes and then falls right back into submission. Because of the female's character lack of a phallus, all jokes both intended and unintended, she cannot interrupt or question the ever-so-manly dominant order of things. Now I'm going to discuss a director and movie I strongly feel rejects the dominant order. John Samuel Waters Jr. is a director, screenwriter, actor, and storyteller from Baltimore who rose to fame in the 1970s for his trashy cult films and his use of convicts and porn stars as actors, such as Patty Hearst and Tracy Lords, who I'll get to later. He is a self-proclaimed degenerate who has a love affair with his hometown. He'll often call it his favorite shithole. But don't worry, he considers that a compliment. Now you may be more familiar with some of his more popular cult classics, such as Pink Flamingos, starring the ever-so-irreplaceable and filthy Divine, or Hairspray. I'm more talking about the first one starring Ricki Lake, before she was a talk show host. And then finally, the unforgettable Serial Mom, starring Kathleen Turner. But I'm going to talk to you about a John Waters gem that seems to fall through the cracks when people discuss this director. CryBaby, a film that I feel rejects the dominant order. CryBaby is set in a 1950s Baltimore and stars a then 27-year-old Johnny Depp as Wade CryBaby Walker. It also stars Amy LaCaine as the wide-eyed and curious Allison Verna Williams, as well as a perpetually knocked-up Ricki Lake, who plays Pepper, who's CryBaby's sister. It also stars Tracy Lords as the oversexed and untamable Wanda. See, I told you we'd get back to her. And finally, there's Hatchet Face.
Yeah, sometimes shook-up old ladies get cut.
The story follows two sets of teenagers from two very different class systems. The Squares, who are considered civilized in high society, and the Drapes, who are considered white trash degenerates. Using exaggerated and oversexed characters is not new to Mr. Waters' movies. Almost everything said in the movie is loud and animated and has a different meaning than you might expect it to be. So, therefore, you can very easily see that the CryBaby girls are proud of their sexuality. Allison is introduced as if she can be easily defeated, but she very quickly shows to them that she exudes the same confidence. CryBaby is introduced as the main character, but doesn't actually do much on his own to move the story along. The CryBaby girls are introduced as background, but one quickly learns that the plot wouldn't move along without them. Primarily with the introduction of Allison in the beginning, he immediately becomes lost without her. Also, you quickly learn that Allison and CryBaby are both orphans, and therefore immediately see each other as equals. The separation then only becomes class-based, which they don't care about.
Here's why. Electricity killed my parents.
They died in the electric chair?
That's right.
Allison's parents died on a business trip in a plane crash, whereas CryBaby's parents were criminals. The alphabet bomber, to be exact.
Bombs exploding in the airport and barbershop.
That's right. Car wash. Drugstore.
Shortly after, all the Drapes are arrested because the Squares attacked and rioted their hangout spot, which was Turkey Point, during their annual jukebox jamboree. All the Drapes went to trial and were punished in some manner, which we'll get to later, but CryBaby was the only one that actually went to jail. He was arrested for juvenile delinquency. According to the song and the judge from the trial scene, he's guilty till he's 21.
But I'm guilty till I'm 21. I guess I'm doing time for being young.
After CryBaby's sentence, both Baldwin and Lenora, who are the main teenage antagonists for the film, are separately but successfully able to convince Allison to defy CryBaby and stay with the Squares. She rejects CryBaby's love publicly on the radio, therefore denying her duty as the main hero. The people Allison are in the car with are Baldwin in the back seat and her grandmother who's driving. This is Lenora. Let's call her the Drapes groupie. She's obsessed with CryBaby, which is why she had a hand in separating both Allison and him. She's also crazy. And as you are about to see, CryBaby does not take Allison's public rejection very well. Meanwhile, Wanda is having some problems of her own. You see, she is about to be informed that she's going to be swapped for a foreign exchange student named Inga. See, in this scene, John Waters briefly touches on the concept of othering. Based on the way they speak to Inga and how they have her dressed, shows that they don't actually want to understand her culture, but want to make a great effort to look like they're trying.
Let's all put on a faux cap and learn something about a foreign culture.
But Wanda, in her own rebellious style, is very quick to tell Inga exactly what America is like.
You want to learn about America, Inga? In America, we like boys. We like hot boys. Boys with Roman hands and Russian fingers.
During the same court excursion where CryBaby was sentenced to jail, the judge also took Pepper's children away. Here you see Pepper and her grandparents in disguise at said orphanage, looking to break her children free. She is successful.
These are my children and I'm taking them with me.
In true hero style, Allison is convinced to come and rescue CryBaby. After all, he had made a few attempts to escape on his own and was unsuccessful. So here we see Allison and all the Drapes of Turkey Point coming to CryBaby's rescue. Seen here, Allison's grandmother also has a small hand in his release, since for the sake of true love, and her notice that the judge seems to be flirting with her a little bit throughout the movie, gets him released. All the women in the story, in some way, took charge and had a hand in setting CryBaby free, therefore proving that John Waters chooses to write strong female characters that defy the dominant order. They carry the phallus, so to speak, over the male characters, because even though the male characters seem in charge in the beginning, they actually don't do anything to help conclude the story.